Hello, it's me again. Alright, yep. So this is gonna be more of a follow-up to the whole individualism versus collectivism video. Partially because some of my new recent experiences with another Discord servers have been very, very enlightening as of late, as it stands to dealing with collectivists and why they aggravate me so much. First thing I want to point out is I ran into a fucking I ran into a Chinese person from China, very vocal about supporting the CCP, and some of the viewpoints that they were espousing were very interesting, to say the least. Now, it's no secret that the CCP itself is, of course, the Communist Party. It's communism in a nutshell. You probably look at the fucking communist socialists here in the U.S. Oh, that's not real communism. By the guy's metrics, yeah, it is. So, the interesting thing that I'm actually curious about, and this is where you know, I'm talking to this dude, and he's going off, he's spouting all kinds of propaganda, and it's probably for twofold. One, it farms him the social credit score he needs to survive in China. Two, it's tried to demoralize the enemy, which is pretty much anybody who isn't Chinese. You know, they're very homogenous, but they're very xenophobic at the same time. Like, fucking the Chinese in China, they hate everyone. I mean, this guy, if he was any indication as to what the CCP is actually like, yeah, you guys really want to live under this. And it was hilarious, because I'm sitting here, listen to him go off about how China's superior, they'll be the next great world power and everything, and, you know, we'll fall to the mighty boot of the CCP, and how China was gonna liberate the socialists in the United States and whatnot, and you know, he's basically challenging me. He's like, you will either adapt or die. And I said, what if I choose not to submit or die? What if I choose to kill you instead? Then we will meet on the field of battle. You're cute, I said. I want a war game, how an invasion of the United States will actually go for China. Oh, well, we're not really going to invade the United States. We're going to let you fall, and then we'll take your resources. Wow, it was fucking great. So, it really is interesting how he thinks it's really going to turn out. The most hilarious aspect of all this is the way he was going on about blacks. He literally said that blacks are the most evil, disgusting group to ever exist. Like, he said, our prisons suck, specifically because there are black people in prison. And I said, well, it really isn't that bad, and down there, and the prison food isn't even as bad as you make it out to be, because he was talking shit about the prison foods in prison and whatnot. And I said, no, as long as you keep certain people separate, prison itself is relatively, it's not as violent as the movies make it out to be. Now, then he immediately charges me. He's like, oh, you filthy degenerate, you were a prisoner, to like spits at me and whatnot. I said, no, dude, I did a stint as a prison guard. Now, to be fair, um, the stint I did as a prison guard was at a level 2 minimum security facility. So it's really the people where they put people who commit tax fraud, mail, all the very low level the high misdemeanors, low felonies that doesn't really involve hurting anybody, con artists, all the stuff like that. So people who are pretty low on the totem pole. It wasn't say a level 4 or 5 where we were talking like high maximum security. Like these are the fucking people that you keep locked up behind double steel solitary doors and whatnot, and you don't let them out except for like an hour of very highly supervised activities, and you have armed guards with rubber bullets watching these people every possible second of the day, stuff like that. So you can sit there and determine whether or not I'm talking out my ass about how it really wasn't as bad as he says it was, or if it's as bad as he says it is. That's just my experience. But the way he popped off and basically immediately associated me with a criminal, saying, me revealing that I have worked in a prison before without saying what exactly I was. He immediately pops off and says that I'm the salt of the disgusting son of the earth, and he spits on me. And I sit down like, well, no, you're assuming I was a prisoner. No, I was a guard. So, yeah, that whole stint didn't work out all that long. Just fucking. I made a slight off-color joke, to which I apologized to the face of the person immediately afterwards who was offended, and that kind of pretty much ended my career right there. Fucking hell, man! Even the prison system isn't safe from this progressive, hurt fifis bullshit. Man, this was back in 2011. This was before Gamergate and all the stuff really kind of kicked off there. So, woof. Yeah, maybe I should have seen more of that coming. Oh well, it is what it is. Again, I digress. So going back into it, like, this is the most racist motherfucker I have ever met. Probably the only real racist I've openly met, who despises blacks and would probably, commit all the atrocities that, BLM and everybody else is saying, that, America is the most horribly, openly racist nation in the planet, and we need to tear it down and rebuild it and create black power and whatnot. And I'm sitting here like, are y'all sure? Because according to this guy, whatever's going on in China, it sounds like you're talking about the wrong country, people. It's like, you want to actually talk about real harmful racism? Go look at China. Like, that's some bad shit over there. Yeah, that's the big thing. Why aren't y'all protesting China and its racism? That's real fucking easy for y'all to do. Sitting there talking about how we should cancel everybody's racist and everything, whatnot. You know what? We're gonna go ahead and start this. Actually, when I was thinking about this, I'm thinking to start this up. Hashtag cancel China. Yeah. Let's go after the real racists. Let's everybody stop buying products made in China, and we'll cancel them that way. We'll cancel China like we cancel the rest of these corporations for being too racist. Yeah, let's do that. All right, yeah, everybody, hashtag cancel China. Oh, and while we're at it, because China is so homogenous, and they own like most of the manufacturing on the planet, there's no real representation in manufacturing. We should demand diversity and inclusion in manufacturing, especially in China. Eh? Come on, guys, come on. I'm trying to be a good ally here. I'm trying to point out everything that's racist and wrong in the world. Hashtag cancel China. Yeah. Anyway, to go a little bit further deeper into the whole thing right there, let's table that for a minute. And I got into a bit of a spat with a couple of people that are like pro. This is probably going to get me canceled for talking about this, and I know YouTube's probably going to come down on here, but fuck it, I gotta say something. Because you all need to hear this, because I cannot, in good conscience, keep this to myself. I cannot. I can't. Okay. I got into a bit of a spat here, talking about whether or not whether the COVID-19 vaccine. Oh, I said the words. There goes my channel. But I'm like, I got to keep going. The point of the COVID vaccine, to me, is that we will no longer need all of these restrictions and mandates and anything else. Like, really, the point of the vaccine was so that we could get back to normal. And yet, what I'm hearing from a whole bunch of yahoos over there is that, it's, oh, no. The vaccine wasn't meant to get us back to normal. The vaccine was to slow the spread. Motherfucker, how do you think the immune system actually fucking works? See, this is... I have trouble wrapping my head around this, because the goal that everybody says we're trying to aim for is herd immunity. Now, what that means is that you have some people who cannot get the vaccine. Their body is too frail to handle the reaction, or they have an issue with their immune system, or they're allergic to the vaccine or its ingredients or something like that. One, they cannot get it. So how do you keep these people from getting sick? You vaccinate almost everybody around them. Now, I can't give an exact percentage. I'm not that smart or knowledgeable. Being upfront and honest. But if you vaccinate a good amount of people around them, because they're immune to the disease, they don't pass it on as easily. And when that happens, it creates kind of like, if you think of it like a physical barrier, at the center, you got the people who cannot be vaccinated. And then around them, you have the people that can be vaccinated. And the people that can be vaccinated create this barrier of immunity around those that can't. And that's the idea behind it. But the thing is that they're trying to, and this is what really twists me, is they're trying to tout it as, like, the safest, most effective vaccine to ever be developed. But then they're turning right around and saying, oh, no, it's varying degrees of effectiveness. We can't be sure that it's fully effective, so you got to continue to wear your masks and follow these mandates. Which, defeats the purpose. people out here talking, it's very safe, it's very effective, you're not going to find a better vaccine than this, but then they turn around and they say, oh, but it's not that effective, so you got to keep wearing your masks, you got to keep your social distancing going on, and it does not make any sense to me. And I think this is why a lot of people are very reluctant to get the vaccination. And there's definitely more to it, and I understand their concerns. And this is the frustration, because when I was trying to argue this point, with the people that are being, pro everything, they kept trying to hammer on this one point. And that point is, you need to do it for the greater good. You need to do it for the community. You got to do it for everybody else. And that's the only way we're going to get back to normal. And that's the collectivist mindset thinking. Do it for everybody else. Do it for people whose names you don't even know. And you too can be a good, moral, upstanding person. Now, again, they kept hammering on this home, and I'm sitting there thinking, what the fuck is wrong with these people? Because if you remember, I'm an individualist. I do things that are more inherently selfish. I don't do things for the community. I do things for me. Now, full disclosure, I have had the vaccine. When this whole thing started, I said, you know what? If y'all come out, I was very I disliked all the so-called precautions everyone was taking, because to me, everybody was acting like the sky was falling and the world was going to end tomorrow with all this, and I'm sitting around walking around going like, yeah. What do y'all have to be scared about? It doesn't really seem like, bodies are piling up in the streets everywhere. Only time I ever wore a mask at work was when I was dumping, or it was cold enough to the point where I was freezing my ears. Because, let me tell you, working third shift, middle of December, middle of January, ugh. Got fucking cold. God help me if it rained, cold and wet, that's very uncomfortable. Should have figured out to get a whole rain slicker with me instead of just a jacket. That jacket was not water repellent. Freezing rain. Ugh. Will not miss that. But I said, y'all, as I said, I'm not gonna play the game that y'all are playing. But if you develop a vaccine, I'll put my money where my mouth is, and I'll take it. And they said, we got a vaccine. I got a text from the VA that said, hey, we're scheduling appointments for vaccines. I said, well, shit, might as well go ahead and, get it over and done with. The thing is that, I am a military veteran. They do use us for guinea pigs, to test all the new shit before they roll it out to everybody else. Honest truth. And just where I am in life, yeah, I'm an expendable. I'm old. I don't really have anything in my life. That's a whole other issue I'll talk about later on, so I figured, well, if anybody's going to go ahead and get the vaccine and sacrifice themselves to see about long-term effects, fuck it. I'll do it. I'll take the plunge. So that's where we're at. I got a few things I got to really look into. So yeah, I got my vaccine. My experience was fairly harrowing. I'm going to say it straight up. When these people tell you that it is like the safest vaccine to ever come out, they're lying. It's not safe at all. And, it's the reactions that people have to this vaccine that make it fairly dangerous. And the thing is that it affects younger people that are about in the age range. Like, we're talking ages like 20 through 40 are going to have the most serious reactions. And I've talked to a lot of people, and we're talking like, like beyond just pain and swelling at the injection site. Like, I've had people who were sick for a few hours to a couple of weeks after this shit. I've had people who were woozy. I myself actually got knocked unconscious 15 minutes after I had the jab. I was sitting there, just to be honest, if I had not paid heed to my roommate, who's an older gentleman, and he's got younger coworkers about my age, and he gave me a heads up, and he said, his coworkers got knocked on their ass. They were sick for like hours after they'd gotten the jab, and even then, it took about another week before them to start feeling better. And he said, yo, watch for those side effects. I said, okay, well, they sound like they're about my age range, so maybe I'll take these warnings seriously. Because that's the thing, is that I have never seen side effects this widespread on any other vaccine we've had. Never. But, I heeded the warnings this time around, to stick around. My roommate, he just looked at the signs and said, hey, stick around for 15 minutes. He scoffed, walked out. He was perfectly fine. I said, you know what? I'm going to take these warnings seriously this time, because whenever I've had a vaccine, my arm hurts for a few hours afterwards, but then I walk off and I'm perfectly fine. And I've even had the penicillin jab up my ass. And I ran that off because, that helped loosen up the muscle in there. Otherwise, I would have been sore for a week. So I sit down, and then I get a headache. So my head's kind of lolling. I'm not feeling so good. My head falls backwards, and then the next thing I know, I'm hallucinating. And I know I'm hallucinating because I'm having like an actual dream. But that's the thing. I didn't realize it was a dream. I thought, the last thing I truly remember before the dream sequence that I was having was lolling my head backwards in an attempt to kind of, ease the pressure on my fucking head, because I had one hell of a headache. And then, next thing I know, there's someone hitting my, the dream sequence takes place. Next thing I know, I am waking up, there's someone hitting me on the shoulder going, hey, buddy, are you okay? And then yelling for the nurse. And that's when I really kind of wake up, become aware of my surroundings, and the first thought is, this is not my bedroom. I had gotten total amnesia. I didn't know who I was, what I was, where I was, or, even what I was doing in that location. And that was my first thought. This is not my bedroom. I didn't even know my name. I didn't know my age. I like, total amnesia. I had no idea about anything. It was literally like being born again. They talk about that in the whole religious experience thing. This was literally my brain having to reboot and index everything to remember even the slightest fact of who I was. Honestly, it's a little, thinking back on it now, it was a little terrifying, to be frank. But at the time, again, total amnesia, nothing. I remembered nothing, except for the fact that wherever I was, it wasn't my bedroom. Well, and this lasted all of about 15 minutes, and then slowly everything came back to me. I remembered my name, at least. Then I remembered where I was and why I was there. And, as it came back to me, my head's kind of lolling. I'm trying to shake it off. My breathing is very shallow. And I'm literally struggling to stay awake as it is. And then someone gets the surgical mask off me, because apparently the mask I came in wasn't good enough, so they handed me a surgical mask and said, you must wear this in the hospital. I had that tied on. I apparently had it good and proper because I couldn't fucking breathe. They get it off my face, and the next thing I know, I take my first breath of real oxygen, and everything just comes slamming back to me. Like, I go from drowsy and fighting off awakeness to just fucking straight adrenaline shot right to the arm. Whoo! There it is. So, and there I am, desperately sucking down oxygen. Like, I haven't tasted it forever. And thankfully, they didn't even need to use the oxygen machine that they brought over. Not a ventilator, but they did bring over like an oxygen machine, and because they had no idea what was going on. And then the pain hits me. Every pain nerve in my body starts firing at once. And it's something I've experienced before. One time I got super fucking dehydrated, walked into the emergency room because I was pissing blood at the time. And then that's an adventure for another day. But, my body locks up. I can't move. I'm in intense pain. I'm sucking down oxygen. And, oh, Nelly. But at the same time, I'm not the one panicking. It's like I'm trying to shake it off. I knew this was coming. I said, all right, I'm going to take this warning seriously. I'm going to watch for any bad side effects. And then it hits me, and I'm like, yep, this is a bad one. This is a bad one. You sit, you got this. Sit there, breathe, fight it. And in the meantime, the doctors or the nurses or whatnot, they're all clustered around me. Nobody knows what's going on. They finally get me into a wheelchair. They wheel me down to the emergency room. They're like, you okay? You okay? I said, I'm okay. I got this. This was expected. And then they sit there and tell me, no, this was not expected. We have never experienced this before. Now, let me tell you, when you're going through a medical emergency like that, that is the last thing you want to be hearing from any kind of medical professional. The last thing. They get me down to the emergency room. They check me in. They take all the vitals. They do the quick lab works and whatnot. They're checking to make sure that I'm actually getting oxygen and everything else there. And me, I'm just trying to catch my breath. I was actually feeling kind of hungry and thirsty. I asked for some food. They gave me a lunchbox and some juice and whatnot. Really great stuff. I don't know why everybody, why we have there must be some truth to this trope of hospital food sucking. But, I've had some I don't think I've ever really had like a truly bad meal from a hospital. Maybe I'm just not that picky, or maybe I just have not had that experience. But it is what it is. Eventually the pain, the nerve pain subsides. I can actually move again. My extremities aren't locked up due to the pain. I can move. I can eat. Really hungry, so I wolfed down all the food there, cleaned out the entire food, drank all the water, got a couple of episodes. I said, can I have some water, please? Watched some TV, and eventually I shook the whole thing off, and the hospital says, okay, well, you look like you're recovering, and we don't see anything truly abnormal. It's like you're good to go same day. So I was there longer than your average thing there. So that was my experience with the vaccine, getting the vaccine. I don't know how true it may be for a lot of other people, but there are a lot of other people in my age bracket, the 20 to 40-year-old crowd, who definitely complained of a lot of side effects, feeling woozies and whatnot. Older crowd, we're talking like their 40s plus, they'll walk through it just fine. They're fine. But us younger folk, like this vaccine is dangerous. Like, you are seriously taking some chances with your life. Now, that is to say that I am trying to say you shouldn't take the vaccine, what I want is for everybody to be aware, and this is probably why they're going to try to strike down the video and whatnot, say, oh, he's putting out, misinformation. No, I'm not putting out misinformation. This shit literally happened. I have a goddamn piece of paper in my personal medical folder, time-stamped minutes after I got the vaccine, stating that, I was brought in for some effect. I think it was started with the V, I'm not sure, like minutes after it, and the vaccine was the cause. What I want for first and foremost is I want people to understand and be informed. No, this vaccine is not safe. No, it's not as effective as they claim it to be. But in the long run, what I want is for you to make an informed decision for yourself. If you choose to get the vaccine, even after hearing all this, that's great. At least you know what to expect. And that's really important. That I think that's really important out there, because when we talk about malpractice and other things in there, a lot of what goes on is that people panic. And when there's a medical emergency, the last thing you want is panic. And knowing what's happening, knowing what's going to come, knowing what to expect and how to get through it, I think this is some very important information that you need to know. So, if you're still feeling up to taking the vaccine, even after hearing my story, I encourage you to do so, because this is the important thing, and part of why I am an individualist, and why I hate this collectivist mindset where everybody's arguing you need to do it for the greater good. Your health is your personal responsibility. That is like one of the first things that you have to take care of. And we don't really think of it like that anymore. When basic hygiene, taking baths, taking showers, washing your hands. This is stuff you learn when you're like when you're a newborn and you're an infant, your parents take care of this for you. But as you grow up, 2-3 years old, you start to take your own baths. You're encouraged to wash your own hands and whatnot. Like, as soon as you have full autonomous motoring of your body, you are learning to take care of yourself and take personal agency, personal responsibility for your health. And all the stuff you thought as a kid that was inconsequential, making sure you're cleaning yourself off real good, washing behind your ears, brushing your teeth, for crying out loud. Personal responsibility for your health is something that is learned at a very early age. And when you get older, it's important that you know and understand everything so that you can make good, informed decisions about things that you need versus everybody else. Yes, we may call this a pandemic, but that doesn't mean that everybody should run around with their heads cut off screaming about further greater good and whatnot else. Everybody is different. Everybody needs to know what the options are and what is best for you. I would actually equate this much to like getting, a really important surgery. Like, choosing whether or not to get a vaccine is like undergoing, like heart surgery or something. You want to find the right doctor. Not necessarily the best, but the right doctor. And you have to understand the risks that are associated with any sort of surgical procedure. You got to learn all this. So you can make, the right doctor, the right facility, the right procedure This is all very important stuff. And no amount of, for the greater good collectivism can really help you there. And even when we're in the middle of, something like a even if this was the fucking bubonic plague, and you were trying to encourage everybody to get the fucking vaccine to cure, even just slow the Black Death, it's important that that you learned and understood what it is necessarily that you were doing. And that's why the fucking bubonic plague was so fucking devastating, is because people didn't understand what was going on. Like, basic hygiene was a foreign concept, and they had to really, it wasn't until after everything was said and done, and early scientists really took a good hard look at it, and they said, if everybody had done proper hygiene beforehand, it wouldn't have been as big of a thing. And that's really what I want to encourage everybody, is that if you do what's best for you, personal agency, nobody should be sitting here forcing you to do anything. That's, that's the belief of an individualist. But when you give an individualist, all the information that they need, yes, vaccines are good. I believe in vaccines. I think they're a very necessary part of, the health system. But at the same time, I want to know everything. I want to know as much as possible what to expect when I take a vaccine. All the vaccines that I personally have had up to this point, they're known vaccines, and they've just had some minor tweaks. Some of them haven't even had any tweaks whatsoever, and they've been pretty much largely the same. But this is like, and I've actually had an experimental vaccine once before when I was very young. I volunteered for it, even though despite the fact that my fucking fear of needles was at its all-time peak, I eventually got over it. Getting into the military, having to get all these blood draws and whatnot, I've largely gotten over my fear of needles. Still very uncomfortable, mind you, but at the same time, I'm not going to freak out and fight anybody when somebody comes at me with a fucking syringe. At least I know if I'm getting a vaccine or a blood draw. Like, if somebody was coming at me with a syringe full of fucking heroin or something, I'd definitely fight them all goddamn day. Stick it right in their fucking neck, overload, and kill them. Alright, okay. Dark sides of time. But, vaccines are a good thing, but knowing what to expect, I think, is very important. And I think the collectivists have lost sight of that. And that's the thing. They're going to sit there and they're going to fucking grandstand at you and tell you that you're a horrible, disgusting individual who is absolute dog shit if you don't do it for the greater good. It's like that's not how an individualist thinks. If you encourage them and say, hey, this is what the vaccine is going to do to you, but I still think it's a good idea and you should go through with it for your own sake, if nothing else. You can kind of encourage them to go that way. And, the thing about the individualist, you got to understand, especially if you're coming at it from a collectivist mindset, is that the individualist sees the community as a group of individuals. If everybody takes care of themselves, then the community has largely taken care of itself. Like, if you have a group of 12 individualists, and the collectivist goes around to each one and says, hey, we have this vaccine for COVID-19. It's still relatively new. There are some side effects to it, and you should be aware, that it's not the safest or the most effective, but it's what we have. And I would, appreciate it if you would at least think about getting it. The individualist is going to sit there and go, well, all right, well, let me take a look at it, and then they will decide for themselves. And when you approach it like that one, you're probably going to find that most of them are going to be interested in actually, getting vaccinated. And that's the same thing I'm going to tell to my fellow individualists who are here as well. I think vaccines are good. I Again, this one isn't necessarily safe, as per heard of the story, but I'm not going to sit here and tell you to not get it. You know the facts. You know my story. You know, it, you know the official side of things. I leave it to you to decide. And if you decide not to, well, doesn't affect me. I'm vaccinated, so I don't care what you do at this point, because I know that I'm at least vaccinated, and my immune system is going to be awake and doing much better. So that's really it as far as that is concerned. Like, sitting here yelling at me, talking about how you have to do it for the greater good, you have to do it for everybody else. No. But if you come to me and say you should do it because it will help you personally, I'll sit there and go, all right, well, I'll think about it. And when you give me time to really kind of look into it and decide for myself and understand what exactly it is I'm getting into, you'll find that most individualists are willing to take the plunge. It's sitting there trying to call us a bad person if we don't do as you tell us. It's not gonna fucking work. Me especially. I'm fucking jaded as hell. Doing things for the greater good, the greater community. Doing it for people whose faces I don't even know, whose names I don't even place. Like, there are 50 states in the United States. I live on the contiguous Continental 49. And honest truth, while I am in contact with a lot of people in different states and also in different countries and different parts of the world, I can absolutely fucking guarantee you, even in my own state, that there is at least 100 people in all 50 states that I don't even know exist. Beyond just largely a number, like if I were to go on Wikipedia right now and look at the various populations, that's really the only indicator that I have that they exist. I don't know their faces, I don't know their names, I don't know their races, I don't know their occupations, I don't know their income. I know nothing about them other than they are just part of a number on a fucking website. And you're expecting me to care about somebody that, I can't even be for certain even exists. Like, and unless I were to go down there and meet those people, shake their hand, ask their name, ask them who they are, do they really even exist? Oh, yeah, kind of getting into Matrix territory here. Does anything really exist beyond the borders of the megacity? Now, I have traveled. When I was in the Army, I traveled a lot over the Midwest and the Southwest. There, stayed in Arizona, Texas, Oklahoma for my stint in the military. I traveled back and forth between North Carolina and Indiana, going through all sorts of different states. So I've seen Virginia, West Virginia, Ohio, Kentucky, Tennessee. So I know the greater United States exists beyond just the borders of my one town, but it's kind of a thing. Fucking hell. But that's really the question I want to, I kind of want to pose here today. Is when does the greater good become the greater harm? When do you reach a point where caring about other people is detrimental to yourself? Where do you cross the line when where do you cross the line when the needs of the many infringe on the rights of the one or the few in this regard? You know, and I can already hear the fucking collectivists whining about how the needs of the many are like, you know, the working class, the downtrodden, the average common citizen Joe, and the few are the one of the fucking elites in their ivory towers and whatnot. And I'm sitting here, going, no, not at all. When does your needs as a collective infringe on my rights? Because I'm that, I'm that blue collar, low income individual you claim to represent, even though you fucking hate me because I'm an evil, straight white, cis, heterosexual male who is apparently this chauvinistic racist, disgusting, devil-like entity just for existing. You know, I'm no saint, but last I checked, yeah, last I checked, I didn't work for Rias Cremery. Wish I did, though. I'd be all over that. Yeah. You know, if you give me that option, yeah, sure, I'll fucking be your devil. All right. So, you know, but that's really all that I was really thinking about. I got half a dozen other things to really think and talk about, but that's the big one that I really wanted to get out there. You know, and as regarding for the vaccine, you've heard my story. You know the truth. You know that these things are not as safe, as effective as they claim. But I'm not going to stand here and tell you to not get it. What I am saying is I am going to encourage you to take everything with a grain of salt and make a decision that's best for you. Because, again, when does the greater good become the greater harm? Oh, and also hashtag cancel China. We can't forget about that. Or perhaps, again, I'm just screaming into the void all about this.